All right, everyone. The other day, some moron on MSNBC was talking about how if you preferred Sanders over Elizabeth Warren, it was evidence of your sexism. I guess it's mainly meant for males, like, claiming that females are sexist is hilarious, especially when it's coming from a very, very rich person working for a multi-million-dollar corporation. That always seems to be where it's coming from, by the way. Have you noticed that if you get called a sexist or a racist, there are two culprits. One is like a $1 billion corporation. The other is some person who doesn't even know you. Like 9 times out of 10, that's what happens. You don't hear that in real life. Somebody doesn't come up to me on the street and say, "Well, you're a fascist apologist because Gadsden flag or." You talk to people, the wrong people on YouTube, but you hear it all the time on Twitter. You hear it all the time online. It's very interesting how that works. The idea that somebody would look at these two platforms, and they are similar after 90% of their fashion. There are some differences, but they're not particularly large. The idea that if you prefer the one with a long track record of avoiding corporate donations and actually being far left, that's sexism, I think is funny. Now, would I vote for either of them? No, not in a million years, and I'll tell you why. I think that while Bernie Sanders is genuine in his beliefs, I think his beliefs suck. Elizabeth Warren's beliefs suck. She's not even genuine in hers. Therein lies the difference, and there's why there are a bunch of people that don't support Elizabeth Warren. I think if push comes to shove, if they had no choice, they'd probably, a lot of the Bernie fans, they probably would back Warren over like a Biden. They'd probably back her over most of the other candidates. I have a feeling, though, some of them, they wouldn't be able to deal with the idea of Warren because they would look at her track record. It wouldn't have anything to do with gender. That's the cover story for the legacy media because they know Warren is probably going to be the nominee if Biden doesn't. So they're looking at a situation. They're worried that the Bernie bros, again, 5 or 10% of them will refuse to back the nominee. They're terrified of that because they know it gives Trump 2020. So they're setting up to call it sexism. Well, it's not sexism. It's just a matter of looking at Elizabeth Warren's actual long-term stated beliefs, matching them up to what she pretends to believe in now, and seeing that there are two totally different worlds there. That's basically why. Her attitude, I think, rubs people the wrong way. Bernie Sanders, he gets grumpy and fiery, and you can tell that he means what he's saying, even if he's not always coherent, and, he's geriatric, so he's not. Elizabeth Warren, though, she looks scripted even when she's speaking off the cuff, and the reason for that is because she's always reading scripts. She's doing what her focus groups say. She is just the more talented version of Hillary Clinton. That's what Elizabeth Warren basically is. I can understand why people would say it's sexist to point this out, but it's true anyway. Okay, well then the truth in Elizabeth Warren's case is sexist. That's fine. It doesn't matter. It's still true. I wouldn't back Elizabeth Warren if you paid me. I think she'll lose. I think if she's nominated, she'll lose, and then the Bernie bros will see, look, I told you so. You can't take a candidate who lied for 50 years about their race, who sounds teleprompted even when not teleprompted, and a person who has covered up their own long-term political record with a couple of years of pretending to be a progressive. You can't run that kind of person against a candidate like Trump and win. And the Bernie bros will point this out. And once again, Bernie will get schlonged. He's not going to be the nominee. Bernie will get schlonged. And the legacy media, if Trump wins, will blame them. Will blame Bernie bros. Low turnout among those evil sexist Bernie bros will be the reason the Democrats lost. See, it's all the white males' fault. The declining proportion of white males within the party. But then, something else happened the other day in the wake of this. Because it was bullshit. A bunch of females who support Sanders started a hashtag, like a little battle with the Elizabeth Warrenites. And the Warrenites, trust me, they're very vicious. Just like Kamala Harris's fans. Those two groups, they have the most vicious fans of all, and then Yang has the most nutty fans. And then I would say Biden, I've never met a Biden fan, but I imagine that they're kind of nuts too. Just saying, you'd have to be a little bit nuts at this point to be a Biden fan. They started, I think it was like Women for Bernie or something like that, to sort of push back against this idea, because of course they want males not to feel pressured to leave Bernie Sanders support because they support Bernie Sanders too. They don't want Warren to run roughshod over them. And you can imagine, Warren probably engineered this. But she's tactical enough to not say it herself. She's going to have her fans do it. She'll have some staffer inject sexism into the campaign because she knows that it does well for her. And here, the big problem, the one remaining hurdle for Elizabeth Warren potentially becoming the nominee if Biden passes out on stage, which is always possible, which is why she's chuckling to herself every night, is Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard came out in favor of impeachment inquiries. By the way, not impeachment itself, but inquiries. Same fucking difference. Some people were calling me out on that. That's what I meant. Yeah, and nobody at the moment is saying that they need to hold an impeachment vote today because they haven't had the inquiry yet. Even AOC's not that nutty. But yeah, Elizabethwarren and her people think that you're sexist for not backing her. Hillary Clinton did this unsuccessfully. Kamala's used this tactic. Unfortunately, within the Democratic Party, you got to understand, if you're running in the Dem primaries, running among people who are on the left, they take the microaggression, man-spreading sort of bullshit more seriously than the general population. It's even a minority within that. But if you're competing for that far-left bloc because you're casting yourself as a progressive like Warren does or like Kamala does, you need to use those wedge issues. And so if you're competing there, you have to sort of drum up the I'm female, vote for me, I'm black, vote for me, I'm, differently abled or whatever buzz term it is now. The only one who doesn't do this, oddly enough, is Buttigieg. Because, he's openly gay, and he says, yeah, I'm gay, get over it, fuck you, I don't care, here's my political platform. The fact that this is actually holding him back within the primaries to a distant fourth place, and he was in fifth for a very long time behind Kamala till she crashed and burned, is hilarious to me. He should be the front runner. By all accounts, if the Democrats had any sense and weren't voting now based on wedge issues and fear-mongering, their candidate would be Pete Buttigieg. He's the most well-spoken, he's young, fresh-faced, talented, he has the qualifications. He's an outsider, relatively speaking. Isn't he? He's the mayor of some butt-fuck little town, pardon the pun. He's not in national politics. He's got every eminent qualification to run up against Trump. Every single one, if he plays his cards right, and he avoids the wedge issues. Almost like a JFK-ish attitude. He could easily pull it off, and they won't let him, because he's got to win the primaries before he can win the general. He'd be great in the general, but he's never going to get there. It's going to end up probably being either Joe Biden if he doesn't croak or have another great big gaffe, or Elizabethwarren if he does. Either of them, I think, will lose. And then Bernie Sanders is there in a distant, at this point, third place, just sort of existing. He's still the maverick candidate, but he's been outlefted. His platform last time, the reason he gained so much traction is you had a largely empty field because no one wanted to run against Clinton, and he was therefore the far left candidate. So he gobbled up anyone to the left of the main line of the party backed Sanders. Every single fucking person. And then you had a never Clinton contingent worried about dynastic politics that backed him. This was between 30 and 40% of the party. Is he at 30% right now? He's got this massive grassroots activist front working for him all across the country. Tens of thousands of people scattered across the country were already registered to do everything they could and walk through fire and blood for Bernie Sanders, and yet he's in a distant third place, held back at like 10 to 15% of the vote. On a good day, he almost hits 20. And that's because it's a packed field in which he's no longer the furthest left, and he's been outmaneuvered by a rich bitch candidate, a corporate candidate, Elizabethwarren, pretending to be a progressive. She's a faux progressive. She's not left. She's not on the left at all. She's a corporate neoliberal hawk. She always has been. She's pretending. I told you she would start doing this in the wake of the last election. She did. She did it successfully. She might end up being the nominee now. By the way, she is a dangerous force within politics. It is feasible that she could win an election against Trump. I just don't see it as likely. I think she'd have a little bit of an advantage over a Biden, just in the sense that she can actually speak. She'd have a little bit of an advantage over like a Sanders because she's not a self-proclaimed socialist. Other than that, I'd still give her maybe a C- as a candidate, honestly. Hillary Clinton would have gotten a C. At the very least, she had the Clinton name associated with her for extra recognition, for bad or for worse. Yeah, poor Democrats. Yeah, you're sexist if you don't support Elizabethwarren. It'd be really funny. So if you had a Republican female president, like let's say that it was like President Palin right now, I guarantee that this wouldn't be a serious issue for MSNBC. Let's just put it that way. That's about all. Peace out.